We are very excited to be here in District 8. My name is Sean Johnson. I'm the Mayor's Senior Advisor for Community Affairs, and we welcome you to his cabinet in the community. We are very pleased to be here, and right now we're going to open up with a special surprise for you on behalf of Johnson & Wales University. We are so glad to be in this house. This is a culinary school, and they do expert job here. And so just to give you a little taste of what they offer to our students here, we have Derek Akubo, who is Executive Director of Human Rights and Community Partnerships, and our very own Johnson & Wales Chief Matt. Please give them a round of applause and welcome them to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning. So basically with the heirloom tomatoes, they're generational, so you can So you can, basically they save the seeds from generation to generation so the tomatoes become more flavorful and healthier, I guess, across time. So the ones that you buy in the grocery store, the ones that you can find kind of out of season in the winter, those are actually grown in a greenhouse. They're picked when they're green, and they are exposed to what's called ethylene gas. And so it's just kind of an artificial way of ripening them. So these ones have been ripened on the vine. They're going to have much more flavor, and they're going to be a little bit healthier with some more trace minerals. So the first thing that we're going to do is cut these. So I have my knife here. Now, safe knife practices are always important. So what I'm going to do is hold my knife between my thumb and my pointer finger right at the bottom of the blade so that everyone can see. Wrap my other 3 fingers around the knife, and then with my other hand, what I want to do is make kind of a C shape. So the knife can rest right up against my knuckle, and I'm curling the ends of my fingers back so that I don't chop them off.
Sharp knife.
Yep, nice sharp knife. So we're going to cut that into kind of some big wedges and then just cut it into smaller slices from there. And then, see how beautiful that is? The color. So just into some wedges from there. Now these are going to come in a lot of different sizes. So as you can see, I have kind of a large one right here. But then over on the plate, you can see that I have some smaller ones. So that kind of makes for a more interesting plate presentation if you have different sizes and different colors. So what I'm going to ask you to do is grab one of those small ones for me so I can chop that up as well. If you want to just set it on the cutting board, thank you so much. So this one, kind of the same thing, just into small wedges. Let's do one more. Thank you. All right, so what we are going to do next is we are going to salt these. So the reason that we salt any kind of food is just to enhance the flavor of it. Salt kind of opens up the taste buds so that you're able to fully appreciate the flavor of whatever food you are adding salt to. So I don't know if anybody in the audience has ever had like watermelon with a little bit of salt on it. It really enhances the entire experience. So if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. So we are just going to kind of place these cut side up. And then just do a little bit of salt right over the top.
Is that any special type of salt?
So I'm using kosher salt here. It's just the one that it's kind of my go-to. You can use iodized salt, like regular table salt. You can use pink salt or any kind of finishing salt is kind of what those are called. So we're going to let those hang out, and then we're just going to hit them with a little bit of black pepper too. All right. So those are all set. Next, we are going to talk about the Ricotta Salata. So I assume that most people in here have had ricotta cheese before. It's the kind of smooth, spreadable cheese. Ricotta Salata is actually made from that smooth, spreadable ricotta. It's just pressed. So you press down on the cheese, a lot of the liquid is removed from it. So it's still got that nice, mild flavor of spreadable ricotta. And then it's just in kind of a more compressed form. So what we are going to do here, just get our tomatoes out of the way. And we're going to do nice, thin slices of that ricotta salata. If you don't have ricotta salata or you can't find it, some grocery stores don't carry it regularly, You can absolutely substitute feta cheese or maybe a nice goat cheese if you wanted to. I'm very partial to goat cheese. I like it a lot. But what we're really trying to do is let the tomato be the star of this, because tomatoes are in season right now. We always want to, eat seasonally if possible. It's a little bit less expensive, a lot more flavorful, which is great. So we're just getting some nice thin slices here. And that should be enough. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the pistachios. So I got some pistachios. As a part of the recipe, what you have to do is you have to roast them. So they're going to be roasted in the oven until they're fragrant. They're just going to start to turn a little bit brown. It's really important that you watch those in the oven closely because they can burn really quickly. And pistachios aren't exactly the most inexpensive nut, so it's not good to burn them if possible. You can also do these in the pan if you wanted to over medium heat. You just have to watch them, again, really closely to make sure that they don't scorch.
And how do you know when they're done?
So you're going to smell it. It's going to smell very nutty in the air, so you can smell that through the oven or on the pan when you're doing that. And then you basically just want to make sure that they're not turning black is the biggest thing. So we've got those all roasted off to the side. Next, we're going to talk about the mango puree. So what I did was, at the grocery store, they sell frozen mango chunks that you can use for smoothies, or you can use fresh mango if you want to, if it's in season and it's ripe. When you're feeling those at the grocery store, you basically just press your thumb into it, and if it gives a little bit, then they're pretty much good to go. And then I put that into my blender. So you can use a regular blender, or you can use a stick blender if you've got a fancy one like this. That's what I use. And then you just want to puree that until it's a smooth kind of sauce. So that's going to be the sauce on our plate. And then the last thing that we're going to have is just a little bit of baby arugula. So there's a couple of different ways that you can dress up the plate here if you want to make this nice and fancy. So we'll do our first plate right here. So some of you may have seen the classic swoop technique that they use in restaurants. So what I would do is take about a tablespoon of my sauce here. Can you hold that for a second? Sure. Thanks. Just want to get it positioned. So what I do is I set the spoon down about halfway through and then pull it right through the sauce. Okay? So then if I wanted to build that plate, I could just put a few slices of the tomato down. So what we'll do is we'll set that right there. Again, we're using the different sizes of tomato, so we want to have something that's nice and pretty. A little bit of that.
Means everything.
Yeah, exactly. So a little bit of that arugula, and that arugula is going to be adding some peppery flavor. Okay. A few of the roasted nuts. That's going to add a little bit of crunch.
That is pretty.
Yeah. It's nice and colorful. It's perfect for summer. So I hope everyone can get a little look at that. But that's just a composed salad that you're going to be able to serve to guests and, hopefully impress them.
Very good.
So the next technique that I'm going to do is, so I'm going to have you hold that plate right there. Okay. About the same amount of that mango puree, so about a tablespoon. And then I have my basting brush here. So it's kind of the same thing, but you're using that brush instead. So that's just two different techniques for the sauce, but as you can see, we've got a beautiful salad, and hopefully you guys enjoy.
Very good. Thank you, Matt. And again, this recipe is on your chairs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Derek and Chef Matt. Wonderful. Give them another round of applause, please. Just some of the wonderful things that you will learn here at Johnson & Wales University in their culinary program. At this time, I would like to welcome to the podium, on behalf of Johnson & Wales, please help me introduce and welcome Dr. Richard Wiscott, President of Johnson & Wales. Thank you so much for having us in your home. Give him a warm welcome.
Good morning. How's everybody today? Welcome to our beautiful campus. I like to say that we are one of the best kept secrets in Denver, located here in this beautiful Park Hill neighborhood. We've been here since the year 2000, and we have actually invested over $100 million to bring this campus up to great standards so that we can provide our students with an exceptional education. Many people know us for our culinary brand, but especially over the last 10 years, we have evolved into a full-service university. We have over 20 majors. We have associate degrees through master's, graduate programs. It is just a phenomenal place, and I'm really excited I see my students in the audience. They're here today, our student leaders today. Thank you for coming. But I'm really excited to announce that we have 11 varsity sports teams, and this year we have been accepted into the NCAA Division III, and we're in our transition year, and so you're really going to start seeing us hit the map. So I really appreciate you being here. This campus, thank you. I'm especially proud of two things, and then I'll turn it over to Councilman Herndon, but this campus has a $75 million a year economic impact to the neighborhood and to the city and county of Denver. I'm very proud of that. And I'm also proud that our students, we're a small campus, about 1,200 students, and every year our students contribute about 25,000 hours of community service, helping people in the community to fulfill their dreams and passions. So we're really excited about that. So thank you, Mayor Hancock. Thank you, our esteemed guests. They're really very excited to host you here today. Have fun, look around, and you have an open invitation to visit our campus anytime. Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Councilman Chris Herndon.
Thank you, President Wiscott, and good morning, everybody. It is great to see that District 8 has turned out for this cabinet in the community, so I really want to tell you thank you so much for coming out, and can we please give a huge round of applause to Johnson & Wales University again for being a great host. If this is your first time on campus, I would sincerely encourage you just to walk around because it is an absolutely beautiful and gorgeous campus. And they are great community hosts as they are hosting this cabinet in the community. But they have also hosted Denver City Council as well when we have had meetings, and they have been gracious hosts. So I would encourage everyone to do that. And thank you so much for coming out. This is going to be a great cabinet in the community. You're going to have the opportunity to speak to everyone within the city and county of Denver. I look forward to talking to you as well, and I will get out of your way now and introduce our mayor, the Honorable Michael Hancock.
Good job. Good morning. Good morning, and thank you for giving your Saturday morning to be here with us for Cabinet and Community. Is everyone comfortable? Everybody get enough to eat this morning? If not, Chef Matt said he'll cook for us. Anybody want some eggs? Yeah, we'll get done. Some bacon? Bacon, yeah. That always gets it going. Listen, we're glad to be here in Northeast Denver for once again our quarterly Cabinet and Community, and we want to thank Johnson Wales for hosting us. You have been just a continual partner with us here in the city of Denver, and we want to thank you very much, Mr. President, for having us here, and to the great councilman of this district who has served so admirably, District 8. Thank you, Councilman Herndon, for being here as well and for your leadership. Yeah? Deserves a round of applause. So Cabinet Community is where we bring our entire cabinet and all city agencies to the neighborhood. We really, truly believe that as a government of the people, you ought to have the ability to come face to face with your representatives and be able to have good, calm, but yet direct conversation about the issues that are top of mind for you. And so that's what we're here for today. Today we're going to have an opportunity to have some brief presentations on 3 topical areas that we think are most pertinent to you today based on what we learned from your calls to 311, your calls to the councilman's office, in this area of town, and we'll update you on those, and then we'll break, and we'll have an opportunity, you'll have an opportunity to come face to face with your elected and appointed officials and other agency representatives. And so I want to just talk about 2 areas first off, and then we're going to get started with these brief presentations. You know, in July, we unveiled a mobility action plan as part of the State of the City address. And it was a clarion call for our future that offers mobility freedom for all people, and really trying to think about how, as a growing city, an exponentially fast-growing city. We will move to address how we get people to move about the city in a way that addresses the desires in which they want to move about the city. And so our action plan calls for ending fatalities, automobile fatalities in our streets, massive reduction of drivers who commute in cars by themselves, a significant increase in pedestrian, bicycle, and bus commuters, greater deployment of electric vehicles and charging stations, and wider use of smart technology to improve access, cost, and reliability for everyone. And we're going to do a lot. It's going to take some action on your part, on the city's part, as we begin to kind of transform our culture into a more multimodal culture in the city of Denver. That means we're going to dedicate more lanes in our city for transit only and make bus service more accessible to everyone. You're going to see more bike lanes being developed and deployed throughout the city of Denver and completing that network, including neighborhood bikeways and protected bike lanes. And we just unveiled yesterday, inaugurated the 14th Street protected bike lane. Yeah. And we know that the issues of sidewalks are a big issue in the city of Denver, so you're going to see us connect and repair our sidewalk network throughout the city, and we're going to upgrade more intersections and crosswalks, deploy bus rapid transit along our busiest corridors, and expand our network of partners to increase mobility options, services, and routes in the city of Denver. So we're going to accelerate these projects. And in order to do that, we as a city, all of us, are going to have to make about a $2 billion investment over the next 12 years on our infrastructure in this city. And to get started with that, as you may have already read, we have, thanks to City Council, and about a couple dozen city residents have weighed in to help us to develop a new general obligation bond package that is in front of you, or in front of all of us, come November. It was recently approved by City Council, and we want to thank City Council for that. But that bond package will help us get started in a major way in our repairs and the upgrade of our roads and bridges in the city of Denver, improve our parks and playgrounds and rec centers, upgrade our police and fire stations, and enhance our libraries, cultural institutions, and of course, Denver Health Medical Center as well. Thank you, Elbro. You're welcome. I got to tell you, as a native of Denver, as someone who has watched bond projects come and go, and Denver residents have been very, very generous to stay on top of our infrastructure. We are a globally leading city today because the people of Denver have always been willing to invest in its city. But let me tell you as well that I'm proud of the fact that this bond was created with the most robust community engagement process I have ever seen, we have ever seen, around any general obligation bond. We can truly say without reservation, this is the people's bond. 4,000 ideas came from the people of Denver, and a citizens group came together, of stakeholders came together to help us whittle it down to 460 projects that are now part of this general obligation bond. So would you join me in giving the people of Denver a round of applause for this type of engagement? So here's what we're going to hear today. We're going to have Chrissy Fanganello, who is our city's Director of Transportation. She's going to come up, and she's going to update us on recent work around transportation and mobility. And then we're going to hear from our Chief, R.C. White, Robert White, and Commander Ron Thomas, who is your commander of this area. And they'll come and update us on the safety opportunities and challenges of this district. And then we'll also have a brief presentation on the general obligation bond and some of the intricacies of that bond by Tychus Hollowell, our Deputy Chief Projects Officer. But before we do that, let me acknowledge some of our elected officials and dignitaries who are here in the room. First, you all have already met your great Councilman Chris Herndon, but I also want to acknowledge Councilwoman Robin Kanish, Councilwoman at Large, is over here to my left, your right. I want to acknowledge a member of our Board of Education, Rochelle Espiritu is here as well, representing this area. Board of Education Director Mike Johnson is here as well. Where is Mike? Where is he? There he is in the back there. And I saw Board of Education member Barbara O'Brien walking in, and where is she? Barbara, I saw you coming in here. Let's give Barbara O'Brien a round of applause as well. Now, we started this by thanking you all for giving up your Saturday. We also have all of the cabinet members and agency leaders and city employees who have also given their Saturday morning to be here to begin to answer your questions and to hear your thoughts and concerns. And so I want to, if you don't mind, first I'm going to ask all members of the, well, let me have all of you stand up. All city employees, Hancock cabinet members, agency leaders, city employees, stand up and be acknowledged. These are the folks who will hit the posts in just a moment. Thank you very much. And I always take I did not see our clerk and recorder, Deborah Johnson, right there. Deborah, stand up. Our elected clerk and recorder, Deborah Johnson. Thank you, Don. You're always hiding from me. I don't know why you do that. Huh? I always take time to acknowledge the men and women of our law enforcement and our first responders so that we can show our appreciation as a community to them. Many of them are around the room. I see them in their uniforms. Some are not in uniform. But I'm going to ask you if you would join with me in just showing our appreciation to our first responders and our law enforcement who are here. Firefighters, sheriff, Denver police, and our paramedics are in the house. And finally, before I bring Chrissy up here, we always have some special guests we want to bring up here. You know, we have a world-class animal shelter. How many of you know that? You knew that? And we have a lot of wonderful animals who are ready for adoption. And I always ask if we can have a few special guests who will show up. And so I'm going to ask if our special guests will come on up. Give them a little love. Look at them. Look at them smiling already. These are my buddies.
Hey guys, this is Luna. She's a 5-year-old spayed female Chihuahua, and this is Garbanzo, our neuter male 9-year-old Yorkshire Terrier. Both are needing homes. You can bring them home.
All right, so how do you adopt?
You go down to the Denver Animal Shelter, come take a look, meet these guys. We are actually going to be upstairs at the city fair as well, and you're more than welcome to put a free hold on them. And if you want to bring down your family members in the next day or two and meet and decide if it's a good home. But we have a lot of amazing dogs at the shelter available for adoption.
All right, thank you
Thanks.
very much. Animal protection, thank you very much, Garbanzo. Garbanzo's a little gone crazy, isn't he? They're ready for adoption, and I got to tell you, at the cabinet community, we are usually pretty successful in these animals going home with someone, or at least being set up for adoption. So you ready for some brief presentations? Let's get started. Chrissy Fanganello, Director of Transportation and Mobility.
Thank you, Mayor. And thanks for having me here today. It's always good to be in the community. As the mayor said, I'm Chrissy Fanganello. I'm the Director of Transportation and Mobility. Hard act to follow with the cute puppies. Can they stay? They're pretty cute. Anyway, it's always good to be in the community, and it's always nice, particularly because this is where I grew up. So it's always nice to sort of come home and see the neighborhood and see how some things have really changed and how some things haven't changed at all. How many of you remember when Stapleton wasn't a vibrant neighborhood, but it was a busy airport, and every time an airplane flew over your house, the whole thing shook? Everyone's like, what's going on? Yeah, that was me. So, but Denver has grown, and we have changed a lot. And with those changes, there are benefits and there are challenges. And as a community, we have heard you. We've heard you ask for a safe, affordable, convenient community, and that includes a safe and affordable, convenient transportation system. We're very fortunate to have the leadership of Mayor Hancock, who is committed to making more and better improvements to how we move people, goods, and services in our city, and provide the transportation choices that meet your needs every day. As the mayor said in his State of the City speech, we are going to have to get bolder, and we're going to have to act fast before gridlock becomes a way of life. He mentioned earlier that we released the Mobility Action Plan last month at the State of the City address. We really do have this opportunity to reinvest our transportation system while improving our city. and the quality of life for everyone, whether you're 8 years old or you're 80 years old. We need a transportation system that works for everyone. The mayor mentioned a lot of the ways we're going to be doing that in terms of looking at safety, reducing the number of people that are hurt and killed in traffic crashes every single year. We want to see that number go down. We want to build out the networks for bicycles and pedestrians and work more in partnership and in leadership with RTD to do more from a transit perspective than we've ever done before. And also use technology to reduce the costs and improve the access and reliability of transportation for everyone. We're already working on all of these goals, and there's more to come, but hopefully you're starting to see some of the project progress as you move in and around the city. And I just want to highlight a few of the things that are happening here, right here in District 8. We've been upgrading traffic signals along Colfax and Park Hill. We've been building new sidewalks along East 46th Avenue in Montbello. We've been adding bike lanes. The latest one will be coming on Fulton Street between 26th and 29th Avenues. That should be complete next month. We're adding hawk signals. 2 were recently installed in the Stapleton neighborhood. Yay, I like those. Those are good. And the hawk signals, if you're not familiar with that, these are a hawk signal where you push the button so that as a pedestrian, it stops the traffic, and the light turns red, the traffic stops, and you can go through. But it's not a full traffic signal, and so it really helps sort of that flow of both people and vehicles trying to move through the community. So we're excited to see those pop up, and we'll see more of those types of improvements popping up all over the city. Colfax, one of Denver's busiest corridors, has more crashes resulting in injury and death than any other corridor in Denver. And it is expected to get even busier. Today, about 22,000 people ride the bus every single day on Colfax, and often the buses are full and have to pass people by. More people want to ride than there's room for. So Denver has been working to implement bus rapid transit along the corridor. If we're successful in implementing that, this is part of the GO bond that you'll hear a little bit about later. If we're successful in doing that, we will move upwards of 50,000 people every day, moving more people more efficiently on the existing corridor. We'll reduce the number of crashes and increase safety for everyone. We want to keep transportation demand on the busy corridors and out of your neighborhoods, and these type of improvements will help. We recently shared a new idea with regards to this. If this is a project you've been following for a little while, that will suggest operating the bus transit in the center lane. So if you're interested in learning more about that, please come to the table afterwards. We can talk to you about that project, or you can look at the website for the Colfax Corridor Connections Project. Yay, I think so too. Colfax is good. It's a lot to do there. Earlier I mentioned how some aspects of the community have changed and others have stayed the same. Well, our next project might be one of those ones, might be in the category of something that's stayed the same, and that's Quebec. The community has complained about the conditions of Quebec for a long time, for people walking, driving along Quebec, as long as I can remember. And remember, I grew up 6 blocks from here, so it's been a long time. And the missing sidewalks, the congestion, the traffic spilling into the neighborhoods, and poor conditions at bus stops, you've probably all experienced firsthand. After many, many years, the city is seriously looking to make significant improvements between 13th and 26th Avenues to address these longstanding issues. It's important that we hear from you, the community, about this project, and there's a public meeting coming up on Wednesday, September 27th at the Hope Center over on Holly Street. So again, come to the table, the Public Works table later today. We can talk more about that project. We really hope that the community will engage in that effort as we move forward. Another big project is Martin Luther King Boulevard. There's an extension of Martin Luther King, has been in the development since the 2000s. It's just over 1 mile of an improvement that makes this connection between Havana and Peoria. This new street will have improvements for people walking, biking, and driving, and will connect residents in North Park Hill, Stapleton, and Aurora to shopping, education, healthcare, and employment opportunities, as well as to the train station at Peoria with access to Denver Union Station, DIA, and beyond. The last big project I wanted to just highlight is Central Park Boulevard. Early next year, we'll begin the final phase of work around Central Park Boulevard between 36th and 40th Avenues in Stapleton. This phase will build out the second half of the bridge over Smith Road, Sand Creek, and RTD's Railroad. The project includes a multi-use trail for people walking and biking and provide 2 travel lanes in each direction. Once the bridge is complete, bike and pedestrian improvements will be complete along Central Park Boulevard from Montview to 56th Avenue. There's a lot of other work that we're doing every single day, but these are some of the highlights that we have in District 8. There's a lot of work to do to build out the network that we all need, that we all use every single day to get to where we're going. So I hope you can get out in the community, see those projects that we're working on. There's a lot going on in District 8, and as I said, we're going to be available at the Public Works table upstairs afterwards so we can talk to you more about these projects and other things that we have going on. Thank you again for having me here today and for helping us make Denver be a better Denver from a transportation mobility perspective.
Thank you, Christy. There is a lot going on, and by the way, I want y'all to know she's a Manual High School graduate. Christy Fanganello. All right, let's bring up Tychus Holloway, our Deputy Chief Projects Officer, to talk about the General Obligation Bond.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tychus Holloway, the Deputy Chief Projects Officer in the Mayor's Office. As the Mayor mentioned, this November, Denver voters will have the chance to vote on a series of questions regarding what's called the General Obligation Bond, and it's really about investments into our community, such as libraries, repairs to roads, police and fire stations, among many others. These investments in what's called general obligation bonds. General obligation bonds are essentially a financial tool that the city uses to restore, replace, and expand the amenities throughout the city. We've done this before. Every 10 years or so, the city issues general obligation bonds, of course, with the vote of the people and approval. The last example, the Better Denver Bond in 2007, did a tremendous amount of improvements throughout our great city. This bond package is estimated total is $937 million. This will not require a tax increase to pay for the $937 million. To arrive at the list of projects that are part of this general obligation bond, we took three major steps. The first one was the development of the actual project list. So the city has what's called Elevate 2020, which is our 6-year capital improvement plan. This plan has a culmination of projects throughout the city that have been provided by input from citizens, from the public, from agencies, elected officials, among others. After we established that as our baseline set of projects, we then held 6 meetings throughout the entire city, co-hosted with council members. During that process, we received our initial input, which was over 3,000 comments from the public. We also received input from Denver Health on their capital needs, as well as 6 city-owned cultural institutions. After we developed a really solid list of projects, over $3.6 billion worth of projects, we then established 6 stakeholder committees. These 6 stakeholder committees included over 60 volunteers from a diverse range of backgrounds and experiences. They held over 50 meetings, some 90+ hours worth of meetings before arriving at their final results. Each of the committees had a city council member as part of those committees. Meetings were open to the public, and during this process, we received an additional 1,000 comments. So as the mayor mentioned, over 4,000 comments have been received associated with this bond, which is unprecedented, and we are very proud of. So after we developed the list, evaluated the list with the volunteer stakeholders, we then had a series of recommendations. The stakeholders first made a recommendation to the mayor. The mayor then met with city council leadership and made a recommendation back to city council and to the public on what projects should move forward in this bond. City council then deliberated for a series of about 4 weeks and then ultimately unanimously supported this bond measure moving forward to the November ballot. So as the mayor mentioned, on the citywide front, this is going to help us repair roads, improve parks, playgrounds, rec centers, upgrade our police and fire stations. Again, over 460 projects are in this bond. More than half of them are going to help us fix and repair our existing assets, taking care of our own. An additional half is going to go towards transportation and mobility related projects. These projects are going to help the city leverage hundreds of millions of dollars in other people's money as they continue to invest in our projects in our areas throughout the city. So a little bit more closer to home here in District 8. I'm just going to highlight a few of them. There are many more. There are definitely well over 30 projects within close proximity to where we are today. One project in particular within the transportation and mobility, I know many folks here often use 56th Avenue to either visit family and friends in adjacent neighborhoods or take it to the airport or to and from locations in the far northeast. We are going to improve 56th Avenue so that it is no longer a traffic nightmare, but also is going to include some multimodal improvements for pedestrian and bicyclists. As Chrissy Fanganello mentioned, we also have several improvements along Colfax corridor, which includes investments and partnerships with the business improvement districts to do additional safety improvements, as well as the Colfax BRT. And then we're going to have a series of sidewalks, bike lanes, and roadway paving projects throughout District 8. The cultural venues is another huge part of where this bond is going to be investing, and I know many of you visit, whether it's the Art Museum, one of our arts and venues facilities such as Red Rocks or the Buell Theater, the Botanic Gardens, the Denver Center for Performing Arts, such as the Bonfils Theater, the Denver Museum of Nature Science, and the Denver Zoo. So all of those will start to have additional capacity through the physical improvements to do more programming for young kids, youth, and seniors alike. Also, we're doing improvements to the safety facilities. So within this district, we've got the county jail off of Havana Road. We'll be doing some improvements there. We also have funds in this bond for a new District 5 police station, which we think is absolutely needed and very valuable to this community. We also have 2 fire stations that serve the area as well. Fire Station 14th, which is roughly off of 14th and Oneida, and then Fire Station 27, which is off of Albrook Drive, just east of Peoria. Library branches. So again, we've got a lot of investments in this bond going into libraries as well, 2 in particular, the Pauline Robinson and the Celestian family libraries. Parks and Recreation, you will see a series of investments at neighborhood parks and recreation, including new playgrounds, courts, walkways. The interior of buildings will be renovated, flooring, heating, air conditioning, public facilities. So this one's a little bit always difficult to tell what is a public facility. Think of the R.E.P. Taylor building, which is off of Peoria, where the DMV, where Councilman Herndon's office is. We'll be doing improvements to that building as well as part of this bond. And then lastly, we have the Denver Health Ambulatory Care Facility, which is also a huge investment for the city of Denver. So November 7th is the vote. We have a table upstairs towards the back where you can all visit, and we've got 2 other folks from the bond team who are here, Courtney Law and Laura Perry, who are over off to the side. They will be able to help you. If you do talk to them, please do thank them for their time over the past year and a half. They have spent many nights and weekends, literally, helping prepare for this bond for the public. Again, thank you, and look forward to talking to you more about the GEO bond.
Thank you. Thank you, Tychus. 2 things about Tychus. One, he's a Mount Bello High School graduate. Another one. And if you all would join me in excusing Tychus, he is actually missing his 5-year-old's birthday party right now. And so he came to do this, and we're going to excuse him, not for your 5-year-old, but for your wife who's at home handling the 5-year-old. Goodbye. Thank you, Tychus. And now it's time for our safety update with Police Chief Robert White and Ron Thomas, your commander.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. Obviously, you know, our primary responsibility is safety, is your safety, and the key to that is you. You're the key to our safety. One of the things that's really important to us is we kind of get our arms around trying to make us the safest major city in America, and I would tell you consistently over the last 5 years, and maybe even longer than that, but the last 5 years that I've been here at least, we've been pretty much in the top 10 as one of the safest major cities in America. A major city is a city of about 500,000 or more residents. Major city for definition purposes is normally a city of 500,000 more residents or 1,000 or more police officers, and we actually meet both of those criteria in approximately 47 to 50 major cities in America. So thanks to you and thanks to the men and women in our police department, we've been in that upper tier, but we haven't reached that goal as number one, but we were determined that we're going to do that. And I would tell you, key to that is that relationship with you. We have countless opportunities for the citizens to engage with us, understanding that that's the most important thing that we can do as relates to your safety. One of the things that I want to share with you that every district commander, Commander Thomas will talk about it to some degree as it relates to his district, but if you're in Council District 8, you're either in District 5 for the most part, which is at 47th and PR, or you're at District 2, which is at, I believe, 39th and Holly, which is under the command of Commander Callow, who's not here today, but he has two of his lieutenants, his sector commanders, Lieutenant Bancroft and Lieutenant Martinez, and they'll be upstairs, and we'll be glad to talk with you as it relates to some of the challenges that they're facing. The good news is Council District 8, when you put those two districts together, it probably has the largest decrease of all of our districts. So I want to thank you for that, and I certainly want to thank our commanders for that. Even more specifically, Commander Thomas and the men and women that work with him, they have the largest decrease of all of our police districts, 12%. I think they certainly deserve some acknowledgement for the hard work that they do. Now, but that does not go without challenges. In District 5, and I'll speak for Commander Callow real quick, they spend a lot of time working with young people. They're engaged in a empowerment group this summer where they help young people find work during the summer, so I certainly commend them for that. And they spend an inordinate amount of time working in Holly, at the Hiawatha Rec Center, at the Boys Club, and at the library. So while they're working on strategies, working with the community as it relates to preventing crime from occurring, key to that is having those relationships with those young people. Some of their challenges are, for those of you who live in and around the Quebec, Yosemite area, there's a whole bunch of hotels and motels that run along East Colfax between Quebec and Yosemite. They have a lot of challenges dealing with the prostitution and the drugs as it relates to that. They do a great job working with those vendors. Councilman Hernan has found some extra resources so we can put some officers there working in overtime. So while there are challenges, they're actually really working hard, working with the council member, working with some of those owners and managers of those precincts, those particular hotels and motels, addressing some of those particular issues. And obviously, as you all know, in parts of Park Hill, Holly Park, there's always the gang challenge. Again, District 5 works with GRID and GRASS, two organizations that really engage in working with gangs along with the police department so we can kind of mitigate some of the challenges that we have. I'll let Ron talk about some of the successes and challenges in District 2. Yeah. From a police perspective, from a citywide perspective, it is important to know that we have an increase in violent crime. Violent crimes are crimes against persons, robberies, sexual assaults, homicides. The biggest challenge I think we're having this year, which we hadn't seen since the advent of recreational marijuana, is actually marijuana. We've had 4 or 5 homicides that have been marijuana related this year citywide, not particularly in your particular area. Most of those have actually been in the downtown area. So that's been a tremendous challenge for us. We've been working with a lot of other social groups trying to get assistance to a lot of those individuals that are involved or been a victim or involved in some of those marijuana homicides, because some of them are homeless and some of them are travelers that come into our city and spend some time in the downtown area. So we've actually been trying to get our arms around that. The success is we've had success in property crimes. Property crimes are somebody breaking into your car, somebody stealing something from one of the commercial areas, crimes that are not crimes against persons. So slight increase in violent crime and a significant decrease in property crime. So where we are year to date as it relates to crime, when I say year to date, comparing where we were last year to this year, we have about a 1% to 2% decrease overall in crime. So we're showing some success, but again, we still have a lot of work to do. You should also know that we are probably, and I had to use probably because if I'm not exactly right, somebody will correct me, but I think I'm correct in saying this. We're probably the largest police department in the country where all of our officers that are working on duty and off duty in a patrol capacity wear body cams. So we've made a lot of success as it relates to that. Also, I wanted to also, I mentioned about the advisory boards that all the district commanders have. Actually, starting in October, I will have an advisory board that will consist of some citizens that live and work in our community, and I will meet with them on a regular basis, giving them a perspective of what we're seeing as a police department, but maybe equally important, getting feedback from them as it relates to some of the quality of life issues that impact the neighborhoods that they live in. So I'm really excited and looking forward to that. And I kind of want to close that in August the 12th, we had our second annual community police cookout. It was at East, it was on the grounds of East High School. We had over 3,000 people participate. Everything was free. We gave away school supplies to the kids. We plan on doing that again next year. So we're going to make sure that we get that message out. The goal eventually is to have up to 10,000 of our residents attend one of those events. There have been fun events. It gives us an opportunity to share the things that we're doing as a police department, to show our appreciation for all the work that the men and women do and the collaboration that they have with the citizens in our community. As it relates to school supplies, when you come upstairs, if you have a young person that's in our elementary, middle, or high school, we still have a couple dozens of school backpacks with school supplies in them, and we'll be giving those out upstairs. So again, I want to thank you for working with us, and at this time I'll ask Ron to come up to give you a brief overview of what's going on in District 5.
Good morning. Certainly on behalf of Police District 2 and District 5, I want to thank everyone for coming out today. Certainly shows that you are concerned and care about your community. So I'd like to start off by acknowledging that all district commanders are certainly engaged in efforts to make their communities safe, but I do want to acknowledge that the largest decreases in crime have occurred right here in East and far northeast Denver. To date, though there have been some fluctuations here and there, overall crime is down in these neighborhoods more than 10% from last year, with decreases of almost 11% in violent crime and 15% in all property crime. Leading the way in those reductions we've seen in violent crime are decreases in all firearms-related offenses. Burglaries and thefts from motor vehicles have declined as well. Now, two areas where we've not been so successful are in the number of serious assaults and stolen motor vehicles. Looking deeper into these crimes, we're seeing that the overwhelming majority of assaults involve acquaintances, so a lot of family violence, a lot of violent activity in our schools. Now, one might think that police can't really have an impact on family violence or kids engaging in violent behavior in schools, but I've not accepted that. We're currently working collaboratively with some of our community partners, referring folks involved in family violence to receive wraparound services, hoping to prevent the repeat or the start of family violence. We've also increased our engagement with children in all of our schools, hoping to encourage and teach appropriate behavior. Now, with respect to auto thefts, we've seen some patterns that are consistent across the city, which you may have noticed in some of our messaging regarding Hondas and Subarus and large Ford trucks. However, our greatest challenge, and one that we're trying to educate the public with, is cars that are left running or left with the keys in the ignition. I've gathered some numbers and identified that over a third of the cars that are stolen in East Denver are actually stolen with the keys. Yeah. So, those of you who've heard me speak before know that I don't back away from our responsibility to prevent crime from occurring, but we certainly need help from the public to keep these communities safe. Now, one might ask how we're managing to keep crime down while these neighborhoods are continuing to grow with commercial and residential development, and I'll tell you that we're able to do that with some of the tools and strategies that Chief White has provided and supported. For instance, we're making great use of a technology called ShotSpotter, which detects gunfire and directs officers exactly to those locations where gunshots have been fired. That's been successful in helping us catch perpetrators and make immediate arrests on scene and also recover several weapons. Also, our real-time crime data tools help us understand exactly where crime is occurring so that we can direct resources directly to those locations. We're also using various methods such as flyering and variable message boards and our various social media platforms to get the message out to community members and help keep community safe and prevent incidents where crime can occur. Lastly, Commander Cowell and I meet regularly along with our staffs to compare notes and share information about things that could impact either one of our districts. Now, in closing, I'll be here the rest of the morning to answer questions and listen to your concerns. I'm also District 5 is having a safety expo just at the Walmart just up the street from 11 o'clock to 1. So come out and visit us. You can register your bicycles, obtain some locking screws for your license plate so they don't get stolen off your car, and also engage with some of our officers there. I'm also having a District 5 Community Advisory Board Thursday, September 21st at 6 p.m. at our Northfield Community Hub. So thank you again.
Thank you. Once again, just join me in thanking all the presenters. If you don't mind, thank you. Commander Thomas is a graduate of Thomas Jefferson High School. We're just showing you how our schools are producing the leaders of this city. So thank you for your leadership. We're actually ahead of schedule. I'm going to ask you, when you sat down today, there was a survey on the chair. But I'm going to ask you if you pull that survey out, and feel free to fill it out. While you're filling out those surveys, I'm going to ask all the residents of Denver to remain in your seats. With the exception of cabinet heads and agency leads, you may now depart to go to your post. We'll ask those of you who are here, our residents, to fill out your survey. And Sean will come up and give us final instructions, and we'll see you at our post.